am so proud to announce to you tonight, you're going to have the time of your life. This is my instructor, my inspiration from 23 years ago. When I met him at Florida College of Natural Health, he was my instructor, and now they've embraced him for 20 plus years as the Miami Heat massage therapist for the whole entire team. And he's coming to share his story with you. It's so inspirational, and I actually loved it even more as I got to go into some of these details with Vinny this week about his career, and it's going to help all of us right now keep our focus on some good things. He lived his dream. Vinny, I don't even know if I need to say any more. I think the whole world knows you already.
Well, but I don't know if the whole world knows me. I mean, I pretty much have been flying under the radar. We talked a little bit about that this week, where I shared with you that I've been so consumed by the job that I really became disconnected from the profession. And now that my years with the organization are starting to wind down, I would like to reconnect with the profession, and this is one way of doing that.
But this is such a great first step. And, you know, I just want you to know, Vinny, he loves people, and you have loved the profession for so long. And once we get into some of the details of your work, we start to understand why yourself and some of these other therapists, we don't see them. You guys are just so busy, and your career is so fascinating. So yeah. I'm going to start out with what inspired you to become a massage therapist? Where did this all begin, the genesis?
Well, let's see. I think every massage therapist has their story, or at least most massage therapists have their story. My story started when I was a sophomore in college. I was a physical education major. Of course, I chose a major that there were no jobs, and whatever jobs were available were very low paying. So I started to think about what I can do instead. And a good friend of mine was driving a cab in Manhattan, and he picked up a fare, and this fare had this big carrying case. I'm sure you all can relate to the, hey, what's in the case question. And my friend asked this fare, hey, what's in the case? And this fare shared with him that it was a portable massage table. And my friend said, oh yeah, he says, can you do well being a massage therapist? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And he shared with him how many out calls he was going to make, how much money he was going to make. And my friend said was like, wow, that's amazing. So he shared the story with me, and I found it to be interesting and intriguing. So of course I went out and I bought books, and in the books there was technique, and I started to use some of the technique on family and friends, and the feedback was very positive. So I looked into a little bit more. As a matter of fact, I called the Swedish Institute in New York and asked if they had summer classes, because I did want to finish my degree. And unfortunately, they didn't have summer classes. It was a 1,200-hour training program, and you had to do it straight through. So I put it on the back burner. And at the time, I was working in the restaurant business, and the gentleman that I was working for was relocating to South Florida to open up a restaurant and wanted me to come with him. So I followed him down here, again, massage therapy on the back burner, until one night I was watching television and there was a commercial for a massage therapy school, the American School of Holistic Massage. I've never saw a massage therapy school commercial, and I don't think I've seen one since. But anyway, I called the school and found out that they had a weekend introductory course, and I signed up for the course, attended the course, and fell in love with massage therapy and enrolled in school.
Wow, and no regrets about?
Haven't looked back since.
Yeah, oh, it's just so inspiring too, Vinny, because so many people do, and I've seen them as students too, they'll start down a career path, and all the time in their heart of hearts, they feel that they should be using their hands. And it just seems like you always come back full circle to where your passion is, and the door opened at the right time. So when did you know that you wanted to specialize in sports?
Well, I pretty much knew right away. My first day in class, I knew then that I wanted to specialize in sports massage. My educational background was in physical education. I was an athlete myself. I played baseball and lacrosse in college, and it was just a natural fit for me. So I pretty much knew right away that I wanted to work with active individuals, elite athletes, world-class athletes, professional athletes, whatever the case may be. I knew I wanted to specialize in sports massage.
Wow. And then you came in, I remember you teaching at Florida College, and that was one of our draws, was because there was so much around the sports theme, especially in Florida. And I know I'm throwing a little curveball here on that, but did you feel like you really fit into that Florida schema, having embraced sports? Massage is your modality du jour.
Well, I knew that South Florida was very active, and I knew that it wouldn't be difficult to develop a clientele, because even 34 years ago, there was clubs, cycling clubs, swimming, and of course, being in South Florida with the climate being the way it is, it was very conducive to being outside and being active.
So here's the big question, Vinny. Everyone's going to ask, did you leave school and immediately just walk into the sports job? Or what was your first job really like?
Oh, no. My first job was at the Bonaventure Hotel and Spa, which I believe is now the Wyndham Resort. It's changed names several times. And coming out of school, I knew I needed to get a lot more hands-on experience. So I was looking for a position where I was going to be doing a lot of massage. And working in a world-class destination spa like that provided that for me. So I was doing 6 to 8 massages a day.
Wow.
And working as much as they would allow me to work. If I wasn't doing massage, I was doing herbal wraps. If I wasn't doing herbal wraps, I was doing salt glows. So I wanted to get as much experience as possible. I was like a sponge. So yes, my first job was at the Bonaventure Hotel and Spa. And again, I just wanted to get as much hands-on experience as possible, because my schooling wasn't long enough to provide me with enough practical skills to take on what I was going to experience in the working world.
Yes, it's almost like when you go to school, it's like you have a buffet. I always tell them it's a buffet of knowledge with all the different modalities, but to really get in there, it almost requires taking more education to really get specialized. And I love your approach, because you were just so open-minded. You jumped right in and said, I'm just going to work on everybody and do everything just to get the experience in there. So between the dream and living the dream, there was a period of time that you just had to prepare. And
Absolutely.
how long did it take between that time? How long were you working, Vinny, before the doors opened for you?
Well, I was a licensed massage therapist for 10 years before the door finally opened. And I shared this with you this week, and I saw that actually to my advantage, because hired by a professional sports team prior to that, I know now that I didn't have the practical skills to sustain the position. I just didn't have enough hands-on experience. I didn't have enough continued education. So for me, the timing was just right. I believe that you only get one shot. And if I didn't have that experience and that advanced training, I feel I would have failed and more than likely would have been dismissed from my position. And once that happens, it's very difficult to get back in.
And how did the opportunity come to you? Did you go looking for a sports? How did you get into the Miami Heat? Was it introduced to you, or how did you approach that?
Well, I was pounding the pavement. I was knocking on doors. I was making phone calls. I was mailing resumes because back then we didn't really have email. So I was mailing out resumes, and I would just follow up these calls, these visits, these resume sendings with more phone calls, more resume sending, more knocking on doors. So for me, it was a real grind. It was really just staying persistent and knowing that I wasn't going to lose sight of my goal. And my goal was one day to work with a professional athletic team. And I didn't have a preference. I mean, I knocked on the Miami Heat's door. I knocked on the Florida Panthers' door. I knocked on the Miami Marlins' door. I knocked on every sports team, the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Heat was the first team that actually opened that door. And that was due to the fact that they brought Pat Riley into the organization, and Pat had a blueprint as to what he wanted to provide for his athletes. And massage therapy was on the blueprint.
Yeah, we were talking about that just today, and I found that was really interesting, and maybe we could share a little bit of that. Vinny, is, you know, there's people watching, and we're recording it too, because there's other therapists who'd like to see this. They couldn't be here tonight, but they were wondering, you know, how do you get into these teams? And you've been obviously doing your diligence. You were a house on fire, knowing what you wanted to do and waiting for the right door. But you said something very interesting. It's about also the teams. They're all using massage on some level, but they all have a little different approach as far as how many therapists, the location. Share with us a little more about that.
Sure. Through the years, I found that more and more NBA teams, basketball teams, were utilizing massage therapy, and to varying degrees. In my case, the Miami Heat wanted a full-time massage therapist, one that was available to travel with the team, and one that was available year-round. Now, I was telling you earlier, we also have a part-time massage therapist that is available on game nights and also available for in-home care. So we take it to the max. Again, we're a solid organization, and we want to provide as much as we possibly can for our athletes. Now, other teams may have just a full-time massage therapist that travels with the team. Other teams may have massage therapy available, but only available when the team is home. And then other teams use it on an as-needed basis. I'm working with other massage therapists in the league to make it a more universal, standardized approach so that massage therapy is available to NBA athletes like I'm available to the Miami Heat. So we want to have it so that all NBA teams are utilizing massage therapy on a full-time basis.
And you've really been a voice and a catalyst for it, because you were even saying back from when you began, it's been more than 20 years now. And up to this day, there's been some reflected changes that they are making those changes and bringing more massage on board.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't stop on the professional level. Right now, more and more universities are utilizing massage therapy for their athletes. an article was written several years ago, and I smile because a good friend of mine in New Jersey approached me and asked me if I would be interested in doing an article with her. And I said, sure. The article was for the Massage magazine. Well, she wrote the article and I didn't think anything of it. But recently, the AMTA ran it on their blog. And all of a sudden, I started getting these emails from therapists around the country. And I finally asked one of the therapists, hey, how did you get my information? And she shared with me that, oh, the AMTA ran the article on their blog. And I had to think about it for a second. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that article. Well, I've been contacted, like I said, by therapists around the country. As a matter of fact, 2 of them are working on the collegiate level, one at the University of Oregon, one at the University of Pittsburgh, and they are hired by the university to work on their athletes. And it's usually for specific teams. I think one was working for the football team and the basketball program, and the other one was working for the football program and I think the swimming program. So there's a lot of opportunity, and the opportunity presents itself on different levels.
Wow, so that's great. There's more doors open for that potential in someone who's feeling drawn to sports massage, that they could even take that step first locally, maybe with their teams at the college level, and then hopefully take that step toward pro sports too. I love that. The fact that it's trickling down from the top down to almost the grassroots is what I've been seeing, Vinny, that we've even had parents with kids that are teenagers realizing that if they're playing sports, that massage is a beneficial modality because they've seen it reflected by the pro sports. So we really thank you guys for what you do, because it's made a profound effect, I think, across the board.
That's a great point. I mean, you look at gymnasts, for example, female gymnasts, they get involved with the sport at a very, very young age. And many times, as early as 12 and 13 years old, they're running into problems that are career ending, that are soft tissue related, that can be addressed by a massage therapist and bring relief so that they can continue on their quest to reach whatever level it is that they're looking to attain, whether it's a scholarship, a college scholarship, or an Olympic athlete.
Amazing. You know, just sharing, Vinny, and then I'm going to ask you the next question. But I remember working with a pro athlete with lymphatic drainage who had a groin pull that resulted in edema developing in the scrotal area. So obviously he couldn't run. It almost ended his career within the first year. He just started. I remember tears streaming down his face, and just, you feel that love and outpouring that they've given their whole life to their sport, and to tell them because of an injury, it's over. You know, they must love you when they see you, is what I'm thinking. Those guys, when they see those hands coming, Vinny's going to take care of us. You've got to be the MVP for them, for their pains and their aches.
Well, I do the best I can. I do what I know. And we've had this conversation before too. And that is, I don't think I do anything special. I do it with intent. I do it with motivation. And as long as that's in place, the results are going to come. And I'm just happy that I've been able to help athletes. I've been happy that I've been able to help regular people. It's just a very rewarding career that we've chosen.
You guys, you do something special. I think when they see what your day really looks like, kind of like we were showing before the show began, wow, your day, your night, you're on all the time. And just so everybody knows, the article, Vinny, you were referring to, the Massage Magazine article about you, I posted on our Facebook and on Twitter and LinkedIn so everyone could get a copy of it, and you could follow up with that article and that link as well. So it's up there on MLB Institute. You can read even more detail about Vinny. But I have another question for you. Your door opened. Finally, the moment arrives. Vinny, did you feel prepared? Or did you feel like, was there something else maybe you should have had before you start knocking on that door? Those are always the questions we're asking.
Well, before the door opened, I had been knocking on doors for years. Talk about rejection. When the door finally opened, I can say that yes, I felt comfortable, I felt confident. I was certified in sports massage through Southeastern Sports Massage, Benny Vaughn. I was certified in neuromuscular therapy, Paul St. John, Judith Walker, Delaney. I was certified in Aaron Mattis's work, if you can say certification in his work. So I felt very comfortable and confident. Plus, by then, I had 10 years plus in hands-on experience. So I went in prepared. Like I said earlier, if that would have happened sooner, I would not have been prepared. And if I were to be able to do more in preparation, it would have been to attend more advanced seminars. But going back 25 years ago, there wasn't as much advanced education available to the massage therapist as there is today. So I kind of wish that there was more available, because I would have taken it and I would have used it in preparation for the door finally opening and me being able to work with a professional athletic team.
Yeah, because some of the modalities we're embracing now, you're right, they were in, I would say, product development stage. You were already working at that point, though. You were already hired by the team, but you definitely had some great instructors. And I think that was good advice for everyone to hear. The additional modalities beyond going to school and getting our initial diploma is getting some of those highly specialized modalities in. And it sounds like you used them all, didn't you, Vinny? The Aaron Mattis's active isolated stretching, the neuromuscular, it sounds like you used all the tools.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I was hired by the team, like in many instances, I went through a trial period. So I was working with the athletes, and there was still a possibility that I wouldn't be kept on as the massage therapist for the Miami Heat. But in utilizing all these modalities, especially Aaron's work with the active isolated stretching, players seemed to be more receptive to what I was doing, because to them, they saw it like physical therapy. So they made that physical therapy connection. Yes. So because my approach was multifaceted and it combined these different modalities, it was received by the athletes that I was working with.
Yeah, I love that, how they made the connection. And now let me ask you too, Vinny, when you're working with the team, because we hear the word team, so there's you and there's one part-time therapist. How many people are on the team, and what does it look like when you're doing massage? Or how many in a day? Break that down for us.
Well, I'm very fortunate to be part of a very talented staff. We carry 17 players, and we have a head trainer, 2 assistant trainers. We have a full-time physical therapist, and myself. So that's 5 available to work on 17 athletes. Okay. Our approach is we want everybody to get touched every day. So between myself and my colleagues, I probably see 6 athletes on a daily basis, and they're not hour sessions. They're 20-minute sessions, 30-minute sessions, 45-minute sessions. So between the 5 of us, our athletes are being well taken care of.
Wow, and you have a busy schedule. Is it Monday through Saturday, or what is it like? I knew he was gonna laugh.
Monday through Saturday. Well, during the off season, it usually is Monday through Friday, and our days usually run from 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, once we're in season, there are no days off until the All-Star break. So
Okay.
we are going, yes, we are going 7 days a week. We are in and out of Miami. We're traveling to different cities throughout the NBA. The hours are insane, but
Okay, now we're getting real.
but yes, but you get used to it. You adapt, and it's always fun-filled and action-packed.
So that leads us to our next question about, were there any surprises about this job that once you got it, your dream job, whoa, what happened next?
Well, it's interesting. I said to you earlier this week, I said, well, if you don't think about it, then it's going to be a surprise. And there's not a lot that I thought about going into the job, but 2 things come to mind when you ask that question. One is the transition from what I had in place, which was the known and secure. I was a practicing massage therapist for 10 years. So I had a busy practice. It was getting busier. I was enjoying it. And then along comes this opportunity, but this opportunity is the unknown and insecurity. So the transition and the difficulty in the transition surprised me, because like you said, here it was, my dream job. This was my vision. This is what I always wanted to do as a massage therapist. And now I'm having some trepidation, some hesitation. But I took that giant leap, and fortunately for me, it's worked out. It's gotten better and better and better and better and better. The other thing, the other surprise was the travel. I was thinking, okay, travel, get on a plane, go to this city, go to that city. It's going to be great. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be new. Well, little did I know, sometimes this travel took place at 11:30 at night or 12 o'clock at night, midnight, because when we finished the game in one city and we were off to the next city or coming home, we got on a bus, took us to the airport, got on the plane, and we were off. So the travel became challenging. But I'm a good sleeper on planes. I'm a good sleeper in general. Funny story. When I first started traveling with the team, I sat across from our 2 broadcasters, Eric Reed and at the time Jack Ramsey. Unfortunately, Jack has passed away. But I sat across from them, and we would be taxiing out to the runway and conversing. And I would be in mid-sentence and I would fall asleep. Eric and I laugh about that to this day. So the traveling was very challenging. But again, I'm a great sleeper. I'm a great sleeper in general. I'm a great sleeper on planes. I'd fall asleep on the plane, wake up in the next city, and I would be ready to do part of my job that, again, I didn't see coming. So you talk about surprises. And that was, we're a whatever it takes staff. We're a team. We work together. And what I do to assist my colleagues is I help with the equipment bags, and the luggage. So when
Wow.
we get into the next city, I'm ready to go to assist with them. We get that done, and then I head to my room. Takes me about 30, 40 minutes, sometimes longer, to fall back to sleep, but at least I fall back to sleep and I'm rested for the next day. So the travel was a bit of a surprise to me as well.
You know, and this is all the dynamics of this is so interesting, Vinny, because you did this in the middle. You were already in a thriving practice of your own, which I can relate to. You're in charge of kind of your destiny. You got a feel for the real there in Boca. You've had this well-established practice. And then the dream job comes up in the middle. And now you're packing your suitcase in the middle of the night, going town to town and going, did you ever go, what did I just do? Did you ever have that moment? Like, and you have a family. And we want to mention that because a lot of people have families.
Yes, well, not right away. I mean, I was full steam ahead. I'm living my dream. But I must admit that there are times, and there were times, where you're getting into Milwaukee at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 18 degrees outside and the wind is blowing 20 miles per hour. You're like, what am I doing? But, you know, you just suck it up and you just move on and you do your job and you're ready for the next day. But yes, there were times where I did question it, but again, it all comes down to doing what you truly love doing and what you've wanted to do since this all started.
And you did. You've committed a whole passionate career to it. You've been, how many years did we say it was for you right now, Vinny? 20, how many years
Well,
with them?
with the team, 22 years. I've been a licensed massage therapist for 34 years now.
Wow. And they love you. We know that. And you set this standard now. And now the next generation wanting to follow in your footsteps, what words of advice would you give them to prepare? Because I know things change over time. You know, you're looking at this team that's developed at the NBA. What should a massage therapist be doing and thinking right now if this is what they want to do?
Well, the first thing that I would recommend is they get the proper training. And that is attending workshops that obviously are sports massage related. I've been researching to see what sports massage workshops are out there and available to massage therapists. I don't see many. Maybe I'm not looking in the right place. But I know Michael McGillicuddy in Orlando, he has a sports massage program that ties into the University of Central Florida. And I believe he also trained with Benny Vaughn. So that's a viable option for anybody that wants to get involved with sports massage on the collegiate or the professional level. I also recommend neuromuscular therapy. That training can come through Paul St. John, Judith Delaney Walker, or Judith Walker Delaney. I'm not sure which last name comes first. There are also some very talented educators out there. One of the things that I like to do, especially with this downtime the last couple of months, is I like to get on YouTube and I like to search deep tissue massage. And some of the names that I have been following on that are Art Riggs, James Waslowski, Eric Dalton, Neil Asher, Allison Denny, Rebel Massage. So these are all terrific educators that are very open to sharing their educational experiences as well as their technique. So advanced training, um, and then also just put together your plan of action, um, making phone calls, sending emails, reaching out to somebody like myself, somebody that is more than happy and willing to help out in any way that they can.
And we're going to be sharing that with them at the end too, Vinny, because I think that really helps the therapist. It's when they can talk to someone like you that's been through this process, because sometimes they feel disconnected from the source, like, okay, what do I do next? And in the interview process, was there anything that you needed or they should have if they do get that dream job interview? Is there anything in there that they should be aware of or be prepared to answer?
Well, I wasn't thrown any curveballs in my interview process. I shared with them my advanced training, my certifications, and then of course, my technique. And that's part of the interview process, is actually having somebody on the table and going through your technique and your approach and how you would address different athletic related injuries in this case.
And obviously you were the job. They picked you for this job. It had to be your quality of character too.
Absolutely. Professionalism, the way you present yourself, that all factors into the hiring process. And that served me well because I, like I said, studied with some of the premier therapists in our profession at the time, and they prepared me for a situation like that. I remember Benny Vaughn, I remember sitting in one of his classes and him saying, you may not realize it now, but this program is going to pay dividends for you for years to come. And that was absolutely true.
Wow. And on top of that, what was nice is you also, can I mention this, that your wife is a massage therapist too?
Sure, sure. Yes.
Yeah, you had a nice support system there where she was very understanding of your job too, because you both are in the same field together.
Yes. Yes, when I was offered the position, we had to sit down and we had to discuss what it was going to entail and the fact that the burden of raising our son and running our household is going to fall on her shoulders. And she was very supportive. She said, hey, this is something that you always wanted to do, go for it, and has been supportive ever since. My son, I have a funny story to tell about my son. When he was about 5 or 6 years old, I was leaving the house and he saw me with my suitcase and he stopped me and he said, Dad, I don't want you to work for the Miami Heat anymore. And talk about getting weak in the knees and, okay, I'm going to unpack my bag. I'm going to make a phone call. Hey, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back to work. But I just gathered myself and got out the door and just went to work. Fast forward to when he was 11 or 12, I was leaving for work, same scenario. He looked at me, he says, hey, Dad, you're not thinking about leaving the Miami Heat, are you? Because by then he was the cool kid.
Aww.
So like I said, they both been very supportive. Doing what I do obviously takes a lot of sacrifice. I missed out on a lot of things, parties, graduations, weddings, so on and so forth. What I do is not for everybody. There's a lot to the job that is behind the scenes. So if anybody reaches out to me and wants to discuss that a little bit more and maybe a little bit more in detail, I'd be happy to do that. It's challenging, it's frustrating, but it's very rewarding.
And it's also, it's real fun too. You were telling me some things. I had this one question here for you, which was, what has been the highlight of your career? The real upside and the plus and the fun of living your dream job. There you are.
Well, the obvious answer to that question is winning 3 NBA championships, being part of an organization that went all the way. It was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing. It was a grind. It was tiring. It was an emotional roller coaster. Besides the success that I have in treating my athletes and the results that I get, another measure of my success is whether or not the team is winning. At least that's the way I see it. So when you go all the way and you win championships, it's definitely the icing on the cake.
You're a part of the magic. You're a part of the magic.
Yes, yes. And that's another thing that Benny impressed upon me when I went through a sports massage internship program, and that was, you're a spoke in the wheel. You're a part of the overall care of the athlete. Don't ever think that it's just you. Don't ever think that you're the cure-all. You're part of a team that takes care of the team. And if that's in place, then the success will come.
Wow. No wonder it's so exciting. And I'm sure your son, now that he just graduated this year, is really clapping his hands saying, thank you, Dad, for sticking with it all those years. It helped him go through college too, right?
Yes, it did. It has provided for our family. Although there were sacrifices, it did do that for myself and my family. They're very generous, very loyal to their staff, and I'm very thankful, very grateful for that. The Miami Heat is a terrific organization. I've seen coaching staffs, I've seen training staffs come and go in professional sports, but the Miami Heat sticks with their people.
They sound like they're very loyal. They're very loyal to their employees. And that's a hard thing to find these days. So it's a great thing that you were blessed with, to have that kind of work.
Yes, feel very blessed, very blessed.
So Vinny, what does, we were talking about, there's a little difference in your day than maybe the gentleman we were seeing the video of earlier, you know, because you are on the road, and I wanted to kind of break down what your day, a typical day in the life of Vinny is like. And I know it's different when they're actually under performance and, you know, when they're off season. So what could a therapist expect if they went to the NBA and said, okay, I'm stepping in when Vinny Aquilino retires? What's happening? What's going to happen?
Well, I'll give you a typical home day scenario, and then I'll give you a typical on the road scenario. It's a little bit of a difference. So when we have a home game, and obviously this is in season, we have what's called the shoot around in the morning. And the shoot around usually starts at 10 o'clock and runs until about noon. So on a game day, home game day, I'll get to the arena at 8 a.m. And there are already guys coming in for pre-shoot around treatment. So we'll do pre-shoot around treatments from 8 a.m. until about 9:45. The guys will go up into the gym. They'll go through their shoot around, and a shoot around is a strategic meeting on the court where you go over your offensive approaches, and you also will go over your defensive approaches to what the other team is going to do. When shoot around is over at noon, players will come down for post shoot around treatments. And that usually runs until about 1:30 in the afternoon, sometimes 2. Guys will go home, take their pregame nap, get a meal in them, so on and so forth. And what I'll do then is I'll utilize that time to get my workout in, to get some reading in, or I might even need to take a power nap. So I'll get that in. And then the guys will start to come back around 4 p.m. for their pre-game treatments. And that'll usually run until about 6:30. And then the guys will go into a pre-game meeting and come out of the meeting and they're ready to go out onto the court. I am there, I'm present for all home games and obviously all away games. I travel with the team. So I'm there from 8 o'clock in the morning until about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's a full day, but I do get that break in the day where I can take care of me and prepare myself for whatever the evening is going to bring. Now,
Vinny, I gotta stop the press on this. I heard what you said. You're doing all this hands-on massage, and he says, "Oh, and in between, I do my workout." I'm like, I thought you were doing a workout, working on all those guys. Vinny,
well,
you got energy. Wow.
yes, well, we all know that what we do is very physically demanding, but we have to take care of ourselves, and that's where my workout comes in. And I try to be as specific as possible to prepare me to do what I do, like an athlete is specific to prepare themselves for what they do. So my workouts cater to me and what I need to be ready for. So I do a little cardio, I do a little resistance work, I stretch every day. I don't miss a day. And that combination is what gets me ready to be able to get through a day like that. And what I was going to say about on the road is pretty much the same thing, except like I was saying earlier, post game usually involves travel. So from the arena, on a bus, to the airport, on the plane, on to the next city. So that just kind of adds to that full day.
Well, and you were just saying that could be up to 11 o'clock at night. So that's what you meant. You might be on that plane at 11 o'clock at night or 11:30 and traveling to your next city. So yes, eating well, sleeping well, exercising, keeping up your strength is just as important. That's
Yes.
what I'm hearing. Wow.
Yeah. And I also supplement and receive massage therapy whenever I can, which unfortunately isn't very often. But I'm very good about taking care of myself, and I go back to the stretching, which is very important for us as massage therapists.
Wow. So, Vinny, are you ready to take some questions? I see in my little chat bar down here that some of the therapists here has some questions for you.
Sure.
So let me go ahead and bring a few of those out here. Let's see what we have. So Jennifer is asking, do you have a preference in treatment technique for orthopedic? And then she says, example, like soft tissue release, active release technique, Wazlowski's, etc. She's asking about your preference in treatment technique for orthopedic.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that I have a preference, but all of those that were mentioned are quality approaches. I like to utilize my neuromuscular training to analyze the posture. I like to use my sports massage training to recognize specific athletic related injuries. I just attended, I was telling you earlier that I just did one of James's Zoom workshops just yesterday. So I enjoy his work. So what I do is I try to bring it all together. And we talked about the toolbox earlier. We want to fill that toolboxes with as much information and modalities as possible, because you never know what you're going to have to take out of that toolbox in a given situation. There have been times where I've used reflexology on my athletes because an area was too point tender to work directly. So I'll utilize anything and everything in the overall care of an athlete or an active individual or a regular everyday client.
Awesome. Michelle is also asking a question. She says, would you say it's predominantly male sports therapists? And if so, do you have any advice for female LMTs who want to get into the field?
That's a great question. And what I'm seeing today is I'm seeing more and more professional teams hiring female massage therapists,
Okay.
athletic trainers, physical therapists. I see it more and more. So the opportunity is there, and it's there now.
Beautiful. That is so encouraging. And Larry is asking us, he says, you're working 12 or more hours a day doing deep tissue work on very, very big men. You have given us so much. Is it financially viable?
That's another great question. Earlier, I had mentioned that the days are long, but within that day, I'm going to see, I mentioned earlier, 4 to 6 athletes. If it's an extended day, probably is going to move up to 8, 10 athletes. They're not 1-hour sessions. They're 20-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute sessions. So I'm not doing hands-on for the 12 hours that I'm responsible to be there and available. So all in all, it is financially viable. It's become a year-round position for me. I'm a salaried employee. I have health benefits, dental benefits, vacation pay, so on and so forth. So in that respect, it is viable.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And now we're going to lift up some of the microphones, Vinny, so that they can ask you a few questions. Are you ready? They're coming at you.
I'm ready.
Hey, everyone, we're going to go ahead and lift up.
It has definitely interested me to the point where we're talking about doing some training so that I can become familiar with the protocol and perhaps help athletes in the future.
You know, she's not going to say this about herself, but when you were talking about all those great instructors, Benny Vaughan and the, you know, the neuromuscular fellas and so forth, she's right there.
I believe it.
She's the national MLD pioneer. You know, so wait, you're about to be injected with great information.
I'm looking forward to it. Yes,
Yeah.
we talked about training, and I'm sure after that training, she's going to be added to my list.
You know, and that respect is so mutual. You know, I loved being his student for those years. Really gave me a nice start into the world of sports. And it's just nice to know, like we said, we've got all these modalities that are now in that toolkit. You know, just to share too with you, Vinny, Kathy is on, Kathy McCready is on here as well. And she was sharing, she was a professional ballerina and her career almost ended prematurely due to an injury on her foot that manifested in some severe edema to the point that the doctor wanted to amputate her foot. And thankfully, we're all here to say, you know, she was treated, she's still able to dance beautifully today. But I'm just thinking, like all of us, that with these modalities involving, the beauty is that we can get the longevity, give the longevity to these careers that these pro athletes have invested their whole life, their time, their families, everything into. We just need everybody, and we need to learn as much as we can, specialized tools. So I'm just so grateful we have Vinny on tonight. Hey, does anybody else have a question or a comment for Vinny too? Come on up. Oh, there, I see her. Hi, Erin. She sent the message. Does MLD play a role in your treatments pre, post, or during the event? And if so, how?
Well, to answer that question, we do not use MLD pre, post, or during an event, but we do have, and I shared this with you, Lisa, we do have a modality called the Hipaa Mat, and the Hipaa Mat is a device, I believe, that was developed in Europe, and it was developed for aesthetic purposes. But they found that it was so beneficial and so effective in moving out inflammation and lymph and toxins that they started to use it in clinics. So we do have the device. I have been trained to administer Hipaa Mat treatments. So that is a modality that we use in place of MLD until I'm trained to do MLD.
And you know, that's a good point too, Vinny, just to let them all know that a lot of times in outpatient therapy or physical therapy too, there is the Hipaa Mat that they use, you know, to maintain people even after MLD. Sometimes that person's not able to do it to themselves. And with the mat that gives them a little bit of that vibration, helps that lymphangiomodicity to be maintained or sustained. So yeah, there's assistive devices that we do sometimes use, and it's really a good point to talk about that, especially in light of sports, because yeah, sometimes you need to have some assistive equipment. And wow, we just got like 10 questions. Let's see what we got here.
Wait, yo, Vinny.
Yo, Larry.
Yo, Vinny.
Vinny, do you use ultrasound?
Do I administer ultrasound?
Do you use an ultrasound wand to work with you with the guys?
Yes, we do use ultrasound. I do not administer ultrasound. That is our head trainers, our assistant trainers, and our physical therapist that does those treatments, those modalities.
I see. Thank you.
And then Cindy was asking, do you use cupping?
Yes.
Okay, so Cindy, he uses cupping. And then Ben is asking, is it ultrasound or is it piezo? P-I-E-Z-O?
It's ultrasound.
It's ultrasound. Okay, and then I see, okay. John, did you have a comment for Vinny?
I was just saying that we should get him trained in the MPS. That really helps out with athletes as well.
Wow, yeah, Vinny, they got so many tools for your toolkit here. They want to know what tools are in Vinny's toolkit and they want to add to it. Yes.
I'm ready.
So you know what, real quick, I got to ask you.
MPS.
Yes, microcurrent point stimulation.
So
Right.
Yanni's asking about your tools, and I was thinking, Vinny, do you actually carry like a case of your own with your tools? I mean, do you have your cupping and all kinds of stuff, a secret case of Vinny?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, on the road, I have probably the biggest case that goes on the airplane, and I get a lot of grief for it. But
I knew it.
they don't let me lift it, you know, because I'm small and I'm a little older. So the younger guys take care of it for me. But it is the biggest, heaviest case, I think, that we carry on the road with us.
I love it. We want the Vinny Toolkit special. We'll have to come back. Guys, I can't believe we just went through an hour and it just flew by. But I know that we learned so much from him. And Vinny, what I wanted to do, again, with your permission, for those of you who would like to have a special consultation with Vinny, we're going to put up his email in the chat. Vinny, you're not rethinking this, right?
No, I'm not rethinking. But you just called it a special consultation, and I'm like, oh,